All right, ready? Go. The interest in mixed... Don't do that! The interest in mixed martial arts, or MMA, has steadily grown in Pakistan over the last few years, with Eman Falcon Khan being one of the leading names in the circuit. She is the 8th ranked of 47 active women from South Asia in the world doing this. Follow Eman across social media to learn more about her upcoming fights, her
Fights? Did someone say fights? Hi, I'm Eman Falcon Khan, and I'm excited to talk to you.
I'm scared.
Guys, be ready to talk.
Hi, Eman. I'm Sabah. Nice to meet
Hi,
you.
Sabah, Eman.
How are you?
You know, good.
Good day?
It's all right so far.
Okay.
I started my day with you, so it's going pretty good.
Yeah, that's what I like to hear. All right, let's kick this off to where it all began. What's your first memory of MMA?
Oh my god, like you're really just getting into it.
Yeah.
My first memory of MMA, I think if I'm not thinking of MMA specifically as a sport, if I'm thinking of like first time I watched MMA, it was like UFC. I don't even know how many years ago, like maybe 2017 or 2018, and I knew that I
recently.
like pretty recently, like my whole entry into the sport is fairly recent.
It's pretty impressive.
I mean, yeah, I think if a person can focus, like truly focus, they can do a lot in a small like amount of time. But I remember watching UFC and I was just like, I had goosebumps and I was like, oh my God, I want to do that. I want to like, there's so much to MMA. MMA stands for mixed martial arts, and it's an amalgamation of all the martial arts you can possibly think of, I guess.
Okay, I did not know that.
Like if you know karate or taekwondo or judo or like, those, the typical sports, wrestling, all of this, you can do anything within that.
Did you, were you fighting or doing any sort of mixed or any martial arts prior to this? Like what, or was it like, now that I've seen it, I must?
I think when I was a kid, my mom kind of threw me in karate a little bit.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I didn't do a lot of it. I was just a wee baby. But I think in like 2016, I started doing Krav Maga, which is like an Israeli form of self-defense. Israeli martial art for self-defense. And I came back from the UK, having learned that for like a year and a half, and I just knew I wanted to get into a sport. So I started Muay Thai. I really, really liked it. And then I went to K7 here in Karachi, and I started kickboxing. And I remember like my hand was shaking. I couldn't even write my name on the sign-up sheet, but I was like, this is what I want to do. Like this, that, when you just know you want to do something, that was the moment.
That's really cool, actually, because I mean, to think that you were like watching it and you were like, you know what, that is what I want to do. Versus me watching it and I'm like, that would really hurt my precious face.
It wasn't so much the watching it. Like I was very intrigued by watching it. Obviously, like any person would be watching a sport or supporting a particular sport, but it was actually being in the thick of it, being face to face with an opponent or a sparring partner or something in front of you, and just kind of pushing yourself to the limit in front of that person. It was more about me, obviously, me pushing myself, but that's what drew me into the sport, not the watching it.
I mean, I'm guessing you don't, but do you startle easily?
Yeah, no, not really.
Okay, because that for me was like panic attack.
Like I don't like loud sounds like this.
Yeah.
But
okay, let's go. So back to what we're actually here for instead of talking about being startled. Were you an athlete before?
Yes, actually. Yes and no. In school, I competed in swimming. I really liked sports and participating in them, but I lived in Lahore, and Lahore, if anyone is listening who also grew up in Lahore in the early 2000s, it's like people didn't really value sports.
Yeah, that's fair.
My schools didn't value sports, didn't value girls in sports. They valued, of course, education and all of that stuff, but no one in my year, I remember, really did a lot of sports.
Yeah.
Versus Karachi, when I came here, and I'm like, people are doing track and field and volleyball and basketball and
rowing.
All of this. Rowing, exactly. But like there wasn't that much focus there, so I even though I kind of wanted to, my mom was an athlete, my dad was an athlete, my great grandfather, he won gold for the Pakistan team, like in hockey, in the Olympics in like the 80s, which is I think the last time we won gold. But like my family has a history of being athletes, you know, and I feel like it was always within me, but only really actually came out recently when I started doing MMA.
What was your family's reaction to you joining MMA?
They were not really for it, actually. They thought it was more of a hobby, which fair enough. Like at that point it kind of was, and they said, why don't you just keep it as a hobby, like don't do it seriously, just because it's a violent sport and there's not a big scope for it in Pakistan. And I just kind of went, well, I'm gonna do it anyway. And I did prove them wrong, in the sense that I have made waves within Pakistan. People who know me for MMA, for kickboxing, and it's making a difference, you know.
Oh, for sure. I feel like the conversation around MMA just the last few years has blown up, and I mean,
seriously.
you can't. I mean, I'm with you. You can't knock your contribution to that, because it was exciting to see a woman being like, not only am I going to do a sport, represent my country, but it's a sport that is still one that, you know, is a little scary for some people, I would say.
Very scary,
yeah.
Honestly. Like, I would be lying if I said I wasn't nervous before a fight. And it's only natural. But I feel like my parents have gotten so supportive over the years. My mom is my biggest supporter. She comes to all of my fights. She travels with me. If I'm going, like, I just came back from Serbia and my mom was there, like, with me. She was cheering for the team, cheering for me. Like, who gets to say that? I'm privileged.
That's
like,
amazing.
It's a real privilege.
I love to hear that.
Shout out to my mom.
Yes, shout out. What's her name? Give her
Samira.
Samira. We are with you, Samira. That's awesome. So you could just competed in Serbia.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get into how you've like traveled and moved around and your accolades in a bit. But I'm interested in asking you this. Sorry, I will always take a tangent if I can.
Ahead.
What is it like for her to watch you in that fight? Like has it gotten better each time? Is she just like, I want my eyes closed?
Look, I think a mom will always be a mom.
Yeah.
She watched other people's fights, you know, she was kind of cheering them on and stuff. But when it came to me, she was like watching through her fingers, like, oh my God, like heart in her throat. But she's there, like she watches, even if it's through closed fingers, she's there. And I remember I competed in a national MMA tournament in December, and I remember my mom wasn't really watching.
Yeah.
But I could hear her. I watched my fight tape back, and I can just hear her loud voice. She was yelling, "Go, Eman!"
Oh,
my nano has more guts than her, like her mom. In one of my last kickboxing fights, I remember she was yelling, "Kill her, Eman!" I was like, whoa. Okay. But my family is so super supportive, even if they are nervous for me, even if they didn't fully support me at the start. Like, it's a rarity to get a family that's like this supportive of you.
I mean, not that I'm an MMA and all, but I get it. I do stand-up comedy and stuff. People are like, do your parents know you're saying that? I'm like, they're literally sitting front row. I drag them there and they have to come.
Yeah.
But no, I asked you because I think about Serena Williams, another great female athlete. When her mom would go and watch her matches against her sister, another Venus Williams, she would either close her eyes or fully have to leave. So I've always found it interesting how parents take it, and in this case, it's you're beating someone up.
Yeah,
so.
or getting beaten up, you know.
Well, I'm rooting for you to be the one beating the ones up.
I'm hoping I always stay on the former side of it, but, you know, I have to be prepared.
Facts. So would you, like, it's like a discipline and a sport, right? Like we said hobby earlier. I was like, I think I would call it, like, when is it the physicality, also the mental discipline that gets you, like, revved up?
I think any athlete has to have semblance of discipline in their lives, or any athlete who wants to be great. If I was thinking that this is just going to stay a hobby, I would not have been so disciplined. I wouldn't take care of my diet as much as I do. I wouldn't take care of all of the necessary things like my mobility, my strength outside of MMA or the martial art itself. I wouldn't look at all of these things like what time do I sleep, how much sleep do I get, what time do I wake up, what am I putting in my body, you know, like smoking, all of this stuff that could harm your performance, you know. I wouldn't be thinking off all those things if I didn't want to be a good athlete. And I think that's what this sport has really, really instilled in me. It is discipline. So I'm thankful for the sport because of that.
Oh, I love to hear it. All right, let me ask you some of these questions that have been vetted, and then I'll go back into making you ramble with me. Here's the one I was interested in. Well, first of all, I want to talk about how you've won some international accolades. You mentioned that you were in Serbia. I'm sure you've been traveling all over the world with this, around this part, at least, Asia.
I mean, yeah, so far.
Hopefully
it's wider, but yeah.
I'm all about manifestation. 2023, we're going places.
We're going
all
places.
Positive. Make that mood board. Make
Let's
that
go.
picture. But you picked up a bronze medal in Tajikistan? Tajikistan. What was that like?
It was intense. Firstly, I'm pretty sure a lot of people know now, but I got mauled by a dog in like July, I think.
I did not know that. Actually,
now you
it
do.
was not on my cheat sheet.
but it was a really. I think those few months were really, really hard for me because it wasn't just the dog bite. There was a lot of stuff that was happening in my life, which kind of, it just wasn't a great time for me. But I had just come back to training from that little layoff that I had, and I was told like 2 weeks before I had to go that, hey, do you want to go? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? I only have 2 weeks to prepare, no biggie. So rushed to get all like tickets, visas, training, obviously. I was so unfit. I mean,
you were mauled by a dog. I think that's understandable.
I know. I'm not like too hard on myself, but it's just a fact that I wasn't training. I could not train at that level that I wanted to be at. But I went anyway. I was by myself. There was a Pakistan team there, but it was kind of lonely. The actual fight itself, it's one of my favorite fights. I lost, but it's okay. It is one of my favorite fights because up till this point, I hadn't really been able to show everything that I had in my skill set. And even though I lost my fight, I put everything out there. Like, yes, I got taken down. Yes, I got beaten up. I also did some beating up too, so that was like great for me. But it was one of my favorite fights because I got to learn so much more about myself and my skill set and what I need to work on versus other fights where maybe I was like too dominant or maybe it finished for me way too quickly. But yeah, I learned so much from that whole time.
I love that. I hope any athletes that are watching who've like felt like, if they didn't win or if it didn't go the way they wanted, they can take from you your attitude. It's like you got to show what you can do and what you've been working on and where you can go.
Yeah, I think at this point in my life, winning and losing, it kind of feels the same for me. And I'll explain what I mean. I mean, of course I feel happy when I win. Of course I feel sad when I lose. But the similarity between both of them is that I have 5 minutes of happiness and then I'm like, what's next? Or I have 5 minutes of sadness. I allow myself the time to cry or be alone or whatever. And then I say, what's next? Like, how do I work on the next step? And this is similar for both times. So I'm thankful when I lose. I'm thankful when I win. Like, I'm always thinking of like, what am I going to do after this?
Okay, so we talked a little bit earlier about how in the last few years the conversation on MMA has grown and I'm seeing, gyms are popping up and like things like that. So considering it's still up and coming, do you find there's a lot of camaraderie in this new sort of culture? Not new, but the culture that is arising now. Because in Lahore, I know for a fact there's an MMA training facility which has opened up in the last year.
I think, especially when it comes to martial arts, when you look at all of the great champions, they came from nothing. They came from the streets. They came from, poverty, basically. And I don't think a facility, like a fancy facility, would really change that. What really matters is you could train on the street if you have the heart to do it. Like, look at the kids in the RE who do, like, boxing in the streets or play football and support Brazil and all of that. Like, they do so well and they're such hard workers. And I see so many videos of like boxers who like, literally I saw one the other day where these two brothers were doing like pad work, which is where one person holds pads and the other person boxes. Yeah. And the guy was holding slippers instead of pads. He was literally holding slippers in his hands and his brother was like just punching them. It doesn't matter about facilities. It doesn't matter. what does matter is that you have a good support system around you. I have mixed feelings about Pakistan, because like it is a very up and down sort of culture in Pakistan where people work for their own benefit. And it doesn't just apply to sports, it applies everywhere. Everyone is in this kind of do it for yourself rat race. And it affects the sport. You know, it's not the most positive thing, but I feel like I'm an optimist, so I feel like there is hope for it to become better if people stop focusing on why it could benefit them. When people start focusing on who else could benefit from my success, then we'll evolve as a society.
Okay, facts on facts. All right. I've always found it interesting that Pakistanis, I like to call us like persecutionistan, because we have this tendency to believe that if someone else has success, they've taken it from us. Yeah. Even if it's like, I can't bake, but if someone becomes a great baker, I'm like, could have been me. Yeah. It's like, not me specifically, but you know, Pakistan.
I could have done better.
Yeah, but like, why not me? I should have that. I'm gonna open a bakery.
Completely agree.
Yeah. So there's not like a lot of like MMA homies hanging out, going for
I think the sport or this culture is always evolving in Pakistan, and I hope it evolves for the better. But at this point, there are so many gyms, so many trainers, so many coaches, and everyone thinks they're the best. Like, okay, it's good to have confidence, but everyone cannot be the best in everything. You know, there's no massive network of positivity. Like, you find small pockets of it. I'm not saying there's no positivity, but there's not that big evolution where everyone wants everyone to succeed. Everyone wants their gym to be the best. And yeah, I don't know what else I could say on the subject.
All right, well, I will take your word for it, and I hope everyone starts punching together and not punching down on one another.
Whoa.
Well done, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so, but that being said, obviously you're an inspiration to young people, and especially young women who are like, wait, I can do this too. What would you say to someone who wants to join martial arts and even go up to MMA and start competing or training?
I've said this a lot, and I'm just going to repeat what I say because it hasn't changed.
You repeat yourself.
No, but it's important. It's a message that should be repeated, you know, until it gets in people's heads. People often overthink starting. Like, forget mixed martial arts for a second. Forget MMA. Simple going to the gym and lifting weights. They overthink that and then just end up not doing anything because they're thinking about it for way too long. So my message is really simple. It's just go and do something. Anything. Like walk or lift a weight or put on a YouTube video and follow the YouTube video. Start somewhere. It applies to girls, it applies to boys. I mean it more for girls because I feel like they are the ones who really stand to benefit from physical activity and being strong physically, which will transfer to being strong mentally, which will, I feel, at least alleviate some of these like domestic abuse, emotional abuse, these problems that we face. I'm not saying it's going to cancel it out completely because let's be real, the problem is with men in that instance, you know. But
in most instances, yes.
But it does help. It really does.
So you would say just get started. Wait, I didn't really get you to, I don't think I got you to tell me this, but you had studied Krav Maga when you were abroad, and then you came back and you joined and you started doing Muay Thai. That's what. So was this at a gym or you started training yourself?
So I did Muay Thai,
which
is like, it's kickboxing. Like you use your legs, your knees, your elbows. You clinch, which is a fancy form of hugging. You know, it is a great sport because it helps you. I think it has really good transference over to MMA, but I started that with a private instructor, and then I moved into a gym where I did kickboxing, which is like Muay Thai without the hugging.
Okay, got it.
For those of you who are not well versed in
kicking all the way,
kicking and punching, and you know, all of the good stuff.
No, that is the good stuff. I boxed for like 3 years for a long time ago, back in the best
It is a great workout.
It really is.
Yeah,
and you just feel really strong and tight.
It helped me. It helped me a lot, like to manage my emotions and to manage myself, because I felt really, really empowered to take control of myself and my life.
I think you kind of touched upon that too, right? That for young girls to get into, activities like this where you honestly taboo, but like get to know your body, it also helps you get to understand your emotions and understand how to react to things. So just telling you, Pakistan.
It helps you face yourself.
There we go. Facts on facts. So last two questions I'll say before we go into our rapid fire. But, there's this idea that, well, in general, that sports has a time frame that like you can only be an athlete for so long. But like for women in sports in Pakistan, there's so much talk about like, where is this going to go? What are you going to do with this? What do you say to people who are like, where are you taking this, Eman?
You're not wrong. An athlete does have a fairly limited time frame. Like if you think about if I sit and I think about all of the younger people who are coming up, or people who've been in martial arts way longer than me, or people who have better facilities, better nutritionists, better, supplements, all of that stuff, I could sit and I could wallow in that pity for like days, hours, weeks, like years.
I love a good wallow. I understand. Yeah.
But I have to recognize my own privileges and just kind of work on myself in the best way that I can. It's not easy to shut out the noise. Like my own family was making noise about, hey, like where is this gonna go? What are you gonna do? And I just kind of put my head down and I believed in myself and I worked as hard as I could. And I'm thankful that it amounted to something, and it's still a process. I don't know how far I'm going to go, but I mean, shoot for the stars, right?
Like I said, we are manifesting, and the stars is where you are going to go because you just said it. And also, just because something is not understood doesn't mean that it's not the right thing to do. So like, get over it, people. Stop your talking. Let people play sports. That's all
I
I'm
agree.
saying.
I feel like if you feel like you have a purpose in whatever you want to do in life, then why not pursue it?
100%.